Aloha and good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, September 23rd, 2025, and the time is 9:03 a.m. Will the Committee on Budget please come to order? We'd like to welcome to the committee members who are present in the chamber today. I'd like to welcome Committee Vice Chair Nishimoto, committee members Kiaina, Toba, and also Council Chair Waters. Although remote oral testimony is being permitted, this is a regular in-person meeting and not a remote meeting by interactive conference technology under HRS Section 92-3.7. Therefore, the meeting will continue notwithstanding loss of audiovisual communication with remote testifiers or loss of the public broadcast of the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda in two ways: in person in the council chamber and remotely via video conference or phone. Remote and in-person oral testimony will be allowed when each agenda item is taken up. Before testifying, each person shall state their name. Each speaker may not have anyone else read their statement and is limited to a 1-minute presentation on each item. As both English and Hawaiian are official languages of the state of Hawaii, pursuant to Article 15, Section 4 of the Hawaii State Constitution and Section 1-13 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes, members of the public may testify in either language. For oral testimonies offered in Olelo, Hawaii, additional time as may be necessary will be allowed for the testifier to provide an English translation of their testimony. All persons who have registered to testify in person will be called upon first. When your name is called, please come up to the testifier podium. Persons who have not registered will be given an opportunity to testify following the registered testifiers. After in-person testimony has concluded, I will proceed to remote testimony via video conference or phone. When I call your name, please monitor your screen and follow the prompt to unmute. For those who are joining us by telephone only, please press *9 if you wish to testify, and I will identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. When your number is called, please listen for the prompt to unmute and press *6. Some friendly reminders and tips: video conference from a quiet location if possible. If you are also watching the proceedings on Olelo, please mute your television at the time you are called to testify. When the timer on screen reaches 0, please conclude your remarks promptly. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please turn off or silence all cell phones for the duration of this meeting. Members, moving on to agenda item number 1 for discussion. We have discussion on the audit of the Fire Plans Review Revolving Fund, Resolution 25-4. I believe with us in the chamber from the Honolulu Fire Department. Oh, okay, I do see Chief Howell here with us. Good morning, Chief Howell.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair Okimoto, Vice Chair Nishimoto, council members, Kalani Hall Fire Chief of the Honolulu Fire Department. Good morning, and I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to be here to speak upon or answer any type of questions you have regarding the audit. When the audit first came out, I think we were very open to it because we strongly believe in how we use the funds as intended as the ordinance. I understand that the public puts trust in us to use whatever resources we have in the right way. So again, we're open to it. It allows us opportunities to seek for improvement, which there's areas that the auditor did find that we could do a better job in, maybe the way the fund is structured or how we do reporting or giving more updates. So that's something that we're willing to work on and work with. However, there's some areas of the report that we didn't agree upon, but that's something that we can just leave it at that. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Members, do we have any questions for Chief Howell? No? Thank you. Thank you for being here and for the work that you and your department put into working with our city auditor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to also welcome, with us we have our Auditor Troy Shimasaki.
Good morning, Chair Okimoto and committee members. Troy Shimasaki, Office of the City Auditor. I'll provide a brief overview of our audit of the Fire Plans Review Fund, Resolution 25-4. So this audit was conducted pursuant to Resolution 25-4, which was adopted by the City Council on January 29th, 2025. The Council expressed concerns about fund appropriations being made outside of the executive branch, such as annual budget ordinances, and sought to promote efficient operations. The audit was issued on August 22nd of this year as report number 2504. So the audit had 3 audit objectives. First was to determine whether the Fire Plans Review Fund's receipts and expenditures were consistent with fund requirements and best practices. Number 2, determine whether the fund's current administrative structure was appropriate. And 3 was to make recommendations as appropriate. Our audit had 2 primary findings. First, the Fire Plans Review Revolving Fund's administrative structure was not consistent with ordinance requirements and lacks transparency and accountability for the fund and its fire prevention purposes. We found that the city has not established a standalone Fire Plans Review Revolving Fund as directed by city ordinance, and instead deposits funds and expends funds through the city's Special Projects Fund. Ordinance 12-4 establishes the Fire Plans Review Revolving Fund. However, we found that the city has not specifically established that standalone Fire Plans Review Revolving Fund, and instead, as I said, deposits the fees into the Special Projects Fund, which is a fund typically reserved for special contract-related revenues and expenditures. Not only is this structure contrary to city law, it also lacks transparency and accountability that would come with revolving fund requirements. Ordinance 12-4 also does not provide sufficient guidance and controls for effectively administering the Fire Plans Review Revolving Fund. We've also found that the Fire Plans Review Revolving Fund does not have the same administrative and expenditure ordinance structure as other non-major special revenue funds. By comparison, we reviewed 18 non-major special revenue funds and found that they generally included control mechanisms to ensure proper use and administration of funds. However, the Fire Plan Review Revolving Fund lacks similar structure and is not subject to the same oversight as special revenue funds referenced in Chapter 6 of the Revised Ordinances of Honolulu. Under its fee collection structure, the Fire Plans Review Fund uniquely allows expenditure upon receipt for specified purposes without requiring City Council review or oversight. And it is important to note that the language in Ordinance 12-4, which allows Fire Plan Review Fund's revenues to be appropriated upon receipt, essentially bypasses City Council oversight and monies are deposited directly with the fire department. Under reporting, funds like the Affordable Housing Fund and the Clearwater Natural Lands Fund require formal reporting to the City Council. This includes justifying budget programs, aligning with council priorities, and preparing functional plans. There is no such requirement for the Fire Plans Review Revolving Fund. By contrast, Maui County's Plan Review, Processing, and Inspection Revolving Fund ensures comprehensive fund management controls. Maui County's Plan Review, Processing, and Inspection Revolving Fund offers more comprehensive information and reporting. The Maui Fire Department submits its annual use of Fire Plan Review special funds to the county before budget review, which includes expenditure and staffing proposals and revenues collected. Unlike Maui, the Honolulu Fire Department is not required to categorize and report revolving fund expenditures in budget reports, leading to less transparency. Currently, Honolulu's Fire Plans Review Fund expenditures are disclosed 2 years after the fact and reported in total rather than by category. Our second finding found that although Fire Plan Review Revolving Fund expenditures generally met program requirements, it lacked sufficient transparency and reporting. We found that the department generally complied with fund spending requirements, but some fire prevention purposes could not be determined. We reviewed a statistically valid sample of 67 fund expenditures between fiscal year 2020 and 2024 and found that transactions generally complied with spending requirements with one exception. We found that 31 of 67 expenditures, or 46%, were not clearly justified or classified by spending category. These expenses, which totaled just over $157,000, included operational expenses such as parts and equipment, repairs and maintenance, electrical fees, solid waste disposal, parking fees, and drinking water for staff. And we emphasize that while none of these expenditures were prohibited, we question how they were justified as fire prevention activities. We also found that the type of expenditures from the Fire Plans Review Fund are typically reviewed by the City Council during budget consideration. On average, 80% or approximately $3.8 million of Fire Plans Review Fund expenditures during our 5-year review period were used for operational costs, including salaries and current expenses. For example, from fiscal year 2020 through fiscal year 2024, the Fire Prevention Bureau used the plan review funds to maintain between 4 and 9 temporary contract positions annually at a cost of $1.35 million. Our review also found that 2 contract positions related to public education and outreach were similar functions performed by the department's existing public information officer. Between fiscal year 2020 and 2024, expenditures that normally have City Council budget oversight include non-holiday overtime, which amounted to just over $356,000, standby pay, just over $140,000, parking fees of $78,000, out-of-state travel, just over $15,000, and purchase of passenger vehicles, which cost just over $121,000, all of which did not come under council oversight, which normally would be for other departments and their expenditures. The report offered 4 recommendations. First, the Department of Budget and Fiscal Services should formally establish the Fire Plans Review Revolving Fund as authorized by Ordinance 12-4. The City Council should amend Ordinance 12-4 to remove the appropriated upon receipt clause, which would make the Fire Plans Review Revolving Fund subject to City Council oversight, or if the City Council opts to leave the appropriated upon receipt language in the ordinance, clarify the fund purposes, establish applicable controls, and implementing reporting requirements. And finally, we recommend that the Honolulu Fire Department should establish appropriate policies and procedures for administering the Fire Plan Review Fund revenues and receipts and prepare an annual report of fund activities for the Honolulu City Council. I thank you for this opportunity to share our audit findings and recommendations. The audit team that worked on this audit and I are here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Auditor Shimasaki. Members, did we have any questions for Mr. Shimasaki? Chair Waters.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Shimasaki. I just want to clarify a few things. Your recommendation is to formally establish the Fire Plans Review Revolving Fund?
Correct.
Because it's currently a special fund? Is that?
Correct. So the ordinance specifically establishes or directs the city to set up a revolving fund. However, in current practice, all the fund receipts and expenditures are done through a special projects fund, which normally the city uses for state contracts. It's a pass-through, so it doesn't have the kind of transparency and accountability requirements that other funds may have.
Okay, and that's the job of Budget and Fiscal Services, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so the fire department isn't responsible for creating that fund. Budget
Correct.
and Fiscal Services is, so, okay. And we can hear from the director later. But also, my understanding is that the money going into this fund is part of what people pay for their building permit, right?
Correct.
So the money doesn't come in all at once, say in December. It trickles in as the permits are paid. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So doesn't that present a little bit of difficulty as far as trying to keep up with how this goes? Because you can't predict how much money is going to be in there year to year because you don't know how many permits are going to be
Correct.
granted.
That is true.
Okay. And then your findings is that the program basically met its requirements. You said generally met its requirements and generally complied with the law.
Correct.
Okay, but you seem to take issue with some of the money being used for operational expenditures. Why is that?
Only because operational expenses and the way the money was spent by the department usually comes under council overview and oversight rather than having the department itself have the discretion to spend monies like that. Like I said, for salaries and overtime and just general current expenses, we believe it's most appropriate that the council have that kind of oversight, given how much they spend and prop up the fire plans review division in their office, in their department.
You just testified there was $157,000. So not a whole lot of money we're talking
Correct.
about, right? Okay, but nothing in here says that they did anything wrong.
That is
Correct?
correct.
Okay, just want to be clear about that. That you know, because I really appreciate the work that the fire department's doing.
Yes.
And to be clear, they did nothing wrong, right?
Correct. We didn't find that they violated anything that's currently in the ordinance or any policies and procedures. We do consider the ordinance 12-4 to be a little vague and general in what they're supposed to be doing. And part of the recommendation does include maybe taking another look to provide a little bit more guidance as to how they can spend the money or should be spending the money, which is similar to what Maui County did with a similar fund. They also have a fire plans review fund where they accept receipts. They also have a revolving fund, but they also include a lot more controls and directives for their fire departments and how they should spend that money.
I see. Well, anytime you purchase anything, you got to go through budget and fiscal services, right? You got to
Correct.
go through their purchasing department, and there's that other line of review for safeguards, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's good to know. But ultimately, I mean, I think your recommendation is a good one, that perhaps we can get a report at the end of the year on what this money has been spent on. And I'm sure the fire department won't have a problem with that. And perhaps we could do that during our budget briefings to include that. But did you come up with any proposed language to tighten up 12-4, Ordinance 12-4, other than removing appropriated upon receipt?
We did not have any specific recommendations for the council to consider. We leave that to the council's discretion as to how they may want to set it up and what level of transparency or controls you all deem appropriate.
Okay, and I note in your recommendation number 2 that if we opt to leave the appropriated upon receipt language in the ordinance, we should clarify the fund's purposes and establish applicable controls and implement reporting requirements. So as we just spoke about reporting requirements, but correct me if I'm wrong, but the fund is supposed to be used for public education, right?
Correct.
Fire investigations, right? Plans checking section, right? Whenever someone applies for a building permit, it has to go through the fire department, and the money's supposed to be used for that. Fire inspections, right?
Correct.
And permit processing, of course, and certifications. So what else would you like us to include besides those things? And I've read the chief's letter to you in talking about each of these 6 different purposes, but again, I kind of putting it back on you. What exactly did you want us to tighten up?
So from our perspective, the current language in 12-4 is broad, such as public, information and following up on some of the support that they provide, which is fine. But because of the way we looked at the actual expenditures, almost anything could technically qualify under those broad categories. So from our perspective, if we tightened it up a little bit, it would give them a little bit better direction And maybe if the council wants to see the money is being spent in a certain place rather than others. Like I said, I go back to Maui. They also have, like I said, a revolving fund, but they've set up a lot more controls for how the monies are spent. For example, for salaries, there's a cap on how much they can spend on salaries before they have to come back to the council and discuss if they want to spend some more. So from our perspective, we think that adds more transparency and accountability for how the fund is spent. If there's a little bit tighter controls or a little bit more directive as to how the monies should be spent.
I see. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair Waters. Any further questions for our auditor? Really quick, if you could repeat, I know that you mentioned the 1.35 million that was spent on contract salaries. What is left in how much is in the fund right now? Or based on your audit, what was the amount that was in the fund? Or is that a question for Director Kawano? I'm not sure.
Maybe I'd have to check. I don't
Okay.
have that number off the top of my head.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions. Thank you very
you.
much, Mr. Shimasaki. Did Director Kawano, I see you here. Did you want to share anything based on this discussion measure that we're talking about at this time?
Yes, thank you, Budget Chair Okimoto and Chair Waters and honorable council members here today. Just want to share one thing. In terms of the balance today that would be assigned to the plan review fee fund, I don't have that number today, but we can get it to you. I do believe that we can definitely add to transparency. Per the city auditor's report, we're in agreement that reporting can be done through informational briefing on the receipts and expenditures of the plan review fees that go through the special projects fund, and it can be done annually or as frequently as council desires. Obviously, annually would be best for all of us. We at BFS, in terms of looking at our various departments, always praise HFD on their internal controls and their how they incorporate policies and their procedures and their execution, in accordance with their mission. And we just appreciate what they do. So, we'd like to do whatever is best overall. But definitely we can help to improve transparency in terms of activities that relate to those fire plan review fees.
Thank you, Director Kawano. Members, if we have any questions for the director? I'd appreciate it if you could get the amount that's in it.
Yeah, there is a balance for it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I know there was a certain number back when the audit first started, but I'm wondering if it has changed. Really quick, because I thank you for sharing that, and we're so thankful for all that the department has done. I believe the auditor said that you could correct me if I'm wrong, that there isn't a fund operating like this at this point. Do you know of any other funds that are managed the same way as this revolving fund currently?
In terms of a fund that collects fees collected for some type of service, I can't think of anything right off the bat except for perhaps the Honolulu Bay Nature Preserve Fund that comes to mind, because we collect, attendance fees, upon entry, and we use those proceeds to operate the Honolulu Bay Preserve Fund. So it would be something like that, but that fund is, 8 to 10 times larger in terms of the flow through. Compared to what we're talking with regard to the fire plan review fees.
Okay.
And the activities are a lot broader. This one's a little more focused.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay, thank you, Director Kawano. Seeing no further questions for our director, members will now proceed with in-person oral testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any registered testifiers for this item? Is he here? Oh, okay. I believe we have no one in person. We'll now proceed with remote testifiers. And I believe we have Mr. Arnold Wong, registered online.
Good morning, Chair, morning, Vice Chair, Chair Waters, and members of the committee. My name is Arnold Wong, speaking as an individual, but I'm also part of the Honolulu Fire Commission. And I was appointed by the Chair of the Fire Commission to review the budget. I would like to thank the auditor for this review, but I disagree with him on how he puts his audit. I believe that the fire department has met and followed all the rules and regulation that is stated. And I just wanted to reassess that without them hiring contract workers in a timely manner, we would have more of a backlog in planning and permitting and may not have any construction. Additionally, because they have inspections and all that, as you know, fire has been going up this time of year, that we need the inspectors and they need those positions. I see my time is going up, but I just wanted to say other things, but that's about it for now. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Wong. Members, do we have any questions for the testifier? Okay, seeing none. We also have online Mr. Donald Sakamoto.
Good morning, Chair Okimoto, Vice Chair Nishimoto, Chair Waters, other council members of the committee. Donald Sakamoto, I support the audit. It gives reflects of what is going on at our fire department, but I support the fire department. But Troy Shimasaki, I know him. I think he did a fair report. It's good to have compliance to what the whole aspect is going with their budget. So thank you for allowing me to speak, and thank you for doing the budget, George Shimasaki and your staff, as well you, council member, to request for it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sakamoto. Members, if we have any questions for the testifier? Okay. Seeing none. Perhaps do we have any other in-person or remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. If seeing no further testimonies, members, we are in discussion. Chair Waters?
Thank you, Chair. Can I give, or can we give Chief Howell a chance to respond?
Sure. Is Chief Howell? Welcome, Chief Howell.
Chief, I wanted to give you an opportunity to respond to the auditor's comments. Is there anything that you disagree with in this audit?
Again, Kalani Hall, Fire Chief for the Honolulu Fire Department. Yes, thank you for that opportunity, or this opportunity. So our fund balance, just to get off on that straight, we have $786,683 in that fund as of today, September, beginning of September. In regards to the findings, you know, although I appreciate the auditor's perspective, everything is about perspective. There's areas, if you go to page 35, and how they say we generally comply, and middle of the page, first paragraph, they talk about that 157,031 of those expenditures. And there's a list of equipment repairs, maintenance, electrical solid waste, parking fees, drinking water for staff. So my definition of operational expenses is to do things operational takes labor and materials. So if you hire an individual, they're gonna need supplies to do their job. They're gonna need a facility to do their job. So a lot of these things here with the equipment, repairs, maintenance, electrical, solid waste. For example, we have an office that is up at the new Wano Fire Station in the back, and it's not connected to any sewer system, which houses our investigators and our K-9. So as such, it's operational costs that are being used, and that's why you see solid waste disposal. So every single one of these 31 transactions, as listed in our response, there's definitions on each of the things. It broke down the ordinance and how we spend the money. And each of these 31 transactions, we believe, fit into those categories. And the Maui Fund is often, I guess, being looked at as the gold standard. How we spend our money is no different than Maui. They buy equipment, they spend their money on postage, travel. So it's the exact same thing. It just comes down to the findings is more transparency in the process in which how the budget is set up and then used. So I think that is where I think the emphasis should be focused on. Another area that, I kind of disagreed. If you look at page 41, in the middle of the page, it says, disproportionate spending on salaries for public information and education over plans reviewers is questionable. So in my perspective, I have an auditor that is not in our field of expertise and maybe not understand the needs of the community. And so when we decide to get staff, is to fill a need. So that's a need that we understand. So from the outside, I can understand their perspective and looking at it that way, but like anything else, we look at what the need is, if we go to an incident, what's presenting itself to us, and we're going to employ the proper strategies and tactics to fix the situation. So that's one thing that, I felt that as a leader of the department, that's something that is in our purview to decide what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. And so, that term generally aligns, really doesn't sit well. And so if we go back and we look at the way the fund is set up, it allows us flexibility to pivot. And what I mean is, when the Maui incident happened, the wildfires, that's something that we knew as a community we had to get prevention and education measures out. So we ended up creating public service announcements, and we really drove up our efforts in that area. And this fund allowed us to get the contract hires, spend the money on public service announcements, and get the message out as best as we can. And we were allowed to pivot and do it quickly without having to go through this process of, back and forth. Although this is good and transparency is needed, that's what the fund allows us to do, to put action in motion immediately. Also, with how this is tied into the Department of Planning and Permitting, when the Department of Planning and Permitting, the mayor really wants to get the wait times on the permits down. So knowing that the strategies that the Department of Planning and Permitting we're going to institute, bringing in a bot to help speed up these permits, we are part of that review process. So we needed to make sure that as this increased amount of permits come across our desk, that we're not the choke point. So what we ended up doing is creating contract hires. We hired some of our retired plans reviewers to come back, get them on board, to get them ready. So when the DPP's plan comes through fruition, we'll be able to take care of the wave of permits that may come across our desk. We're just trying to be as proactive as possible, and that's what this fund allows us to do. Referring to the city's policy on revenues, it states that the city should find other types of resources and not funding resources, and not be solely reliant on property taxes to fund municipal services. And that's what the intent of this fund is to do. We have all kind of budget requests that we put in on an annual basis because our needs of our department, we have many for positions. So at least in this area of fire prevention, I have this fund to rely on. So even though we may need more positions in our prevention bureau, at least I have this fund. It's not as a higher priority as maybe a position that I would be requesting a budget issue in our administrative services or on our operational branch. So again, we appreciate, their findings, but it comes down, I feel, is perspective. And I agree that we could do a better job with the way the fund is set up and doing reporting. We'd be more than happy to provide any kind of reports to ensure transparency and make everyone feel comfortable that we're using the money as intended. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief Howell. Members, have further questions for the fire chief?
No, just thank you. And perhaps as reported by BFS, as well as the auditor, and what you're saying today is for our next budget review, maybe you can give us a list of expenditures. That'd be helpful. Thank you.
Councilmember Tolba. Thank you, Chair Waters.
Thank you, Chair. Chief, if the council decides to take the recommendation of the auditor and remove the appropriated upon receipt clause, would this negatively impact your operations?
You know, that's not my area of expertise, but I think it will to some extent because we cannot guarantee, like Chair Waters stated, the fund amount at the beginning of the year and it trickles in. I feel that you would have to kind of start off with a larger balance should we end up moving to like how we do our general fund, because we really cannot figure out how much revenues that we're gonna kind of guarantee. And having these contract hires, if we have to reduce our scope of what we're trying to accomplish, the way it's set up now is, I think it allows more flexibility. I cannot speak on everything. Maybe Director Kawano could provide a better response. Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Kwano, you want to try to tackle that question?
Again, Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. Councilmember Tolba, can you repeat the part of the question you want
So,
me to
I
respond
said,
to?
we decide to take
Thank
the
you.
recommendation of the auditor and remove the appropriated upon request, upon receipt clause, would this negatively impact fire department's operations?
I think initially, because there's a cash balance forward, there probably will be no immediate impact. But as time goes by, if those monies are spent down and something happens, as Chief Howell said, it could, because they won't have funding. They may not have enough funding available to react and to provide whatever they have to do to the public, whether it's training, whether it's responding to a specific situation, and so on and so forth. It could have an impact. I would think that if we do that, we would have to look at the budget process and perhaps allocate some general funds, behind the program, such that we know there's enough, to cover the year. So definitely there will be an impact, but it may not be immediate, is what I'm trying to say, because there is cash balance going forward.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Toba. If there's any further questions, thank you very much, Director Kawano. Members, we are in discussion. I would like to just thank you, Director Kawano, again for being here. I would also like to thank the Office of the Auditor, his staff, as well as the Department of Budget and Fiscal Services and our Honolulu Fire Department for all the hard work and cooperation that was put into developing this audit of the Fire Plans Review Revolving Fund. The intent of this really, we value the fund and we don't want to, it's not to in any way, shape, or form take away from its purposes, but mainly to make sure that we're having the reporting right and having the system right. And I appreciate the work that was put into it and also the recommendations. I, as the chair of the Budget Committee, intend to meet with BFS and HFD to draft legislation which incorporates the auditor's recommendations, including but not limited to removing the appropriated upon receipt clause from the fire code, which would make the Fire Plans Review Revolving Fund subject to City Council oversight, and or clarifying the purpose of the fund, establishing applicable controls, and implementing reporting requirements. Again, not to discredit or try to hinder the fund, but just making sure that we're transparent and we're accounting for the monies properly. Is there any further discussion on Council Communications 222? Yes, Chair Howell, Chief Howell.
Sorry, I just wanted to make one more point that I forgot to mention earlier. So as far as all of our contract positions, they are reported at least 4 times a year to City Council. They all come on a CSC1 form, and it's all, again, sent to the Mayor's office and City Council for review. So not all of the contract positions are going unreviewed, so to speak.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay, members, any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, we will now move on to agenda item number 2. Thank you again. Agenda item number 2 for action, Resolution 25-239, approving a one-time compromise of the real property taxes owned by taxpayer Eugenia Postnecker for the tax year beginning July 1st, 2025, such that the sum of $2,781.83 is credited against the original tax amount of $4,672.85, resulting in a compromised tax liability of $1,891.02 for the tax year 2025 to 2026. With us again today, we have a Director of Department of Budget and Fiscal Services, Director Andy Kawano.
Andy Kawano again, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. For the record, thank you, Budget Chair, for allowing us to ask for the tax compromise. This situation is sort of complicated from the standpoint of the fact that the widow of the taxpayer that passed away in 2024, I guess on paper, within the system was not listed as a title holder. And as a result, when Real Property Administration got advised of the passing of the husband of the widow, the home exemption got removed. Home exemption got removed. And what had happened is this taxpayer or these taxpayers prior to the decease of the husband relied on the real property tax credit. So it's the low-income real property tax credit that's based on the income cap earned by title holders for a home. What happens is to get the low-income tax credit, you need your home exemption. So when the taxpayer was informed that the home exemption would be removed, they were also informed, or the taxpayer was informed, that they would not be able to apply for the tax credit as well. The taxpayer, however, informed us and filed appeal based on the fact that she recalled submitting a application to be a title holder, co-title holder with her husband many, many years ago. And this probably happened, before the year 2000. So she filed an appeal, timely appeal, to secure her home exemption with Real Property Administration. And she also filed an appeal with the tax relief unit of the Treasury Division of BFS to correct the situation. Due to a misunderstanding, she decided, for whatever reason, to retract or pull back her appeal for tax credit. I believe in April of 2025, the Board of Review ruled in her favor, and she was, her home exemption was restated, and she was put into the system as a title holder. So she must have been able to provide adequate proof that she should retain her home exemption. And then what had happened is, because she retracted her appeal for her tax credit, she technically was not able to process her application for tax credit. Now, she had applied, and then she also had filed her appeal timely. So we looked at all of the facts and stated that she actually did everything right. It appears as though, after the Board of Review's decision, our records were not right. She should have been listed as co-title holder in the Real Property Assessment Division's reports or records. In fact, when her husband passed away, what should have happened is that she should have became title holder, and the home exemption should have been moved to her. So none of that should have happened. So respectfully, we're requesting a compromise to reinstitute the tax credit for this taxpayer, such that she can get her tax credit that would result in a reduction of her taxes due for next year.
Thank you very much for that explanation, Director Kawano. Do we have any Questions for the director? Thank you, Council Chair Waters.
Thank you, thank you, Director Kawano. So, trying to understand why this taxpayer is different than the many others who fall in this similar situation. And I think what you're saying is that this particular taxpayer actually was entitled to it because the city lost the paperwork or something like that, right?
Yeah, I don't know what exactly happened because it was decades ago when they, established their home exemption, but it appears as though that happened because RPAD, Real Property Assessment, upon board review and decision in her favor, reestablished her home exemption, and she is now the title holder in the system.
Right. Because I've tried at least 2 or 3 occasions with legislation to give you discretion so you don't have to come to us for these types of situations, that you have the ability to correct it where obviously it was wrong. And the other things, it happens every year where spouses or partners pass away and the living spouse or partner isn't on the homeowner's exemption, and all of a sudden they're residential A and their taxes go up a great deal. So do you have any legislation that you can recommend that we can introduce that would solve this type of problem where the spouse dies and they're not on the homeowner's exemption? And by the way, before you answer that, I got to give you and your department credit for getting the word out to people to put both names, or even you could put your children's name on the homeowner's exemption in the event that you have an elderly couple. But again, I've tried 2 or 3 times through legislation to fix this problem. And do you have any language that you can give to us to fix this?
Well, honestly, we've talked about the problem with a number of council members, and it would require an amendment to ordinance to effectively provide, I guess, a safe harbor, within a certain time constraint for couples, especially married couples that are entitled together for property. We're open to work on that, but we would really, really prefer having a permitted interaction group to discuss that, along with some other changes that we think are still out there, in terms of active bills that we should have discussion on. So I think we should look at it in a manner that's I think globally, I think responsible based on everything out there. But I do agree we should take a look at it because it does come up.
I'm not sure a permitted interaction group is necessary for this particular topic. I really would love to hear from you and your department on how to solve the problem. Like I said, one of the things I introduced was give you the discretion. I think I raised it to $10,000, right? You have up to $10,000 to perhaps forgive the tax where there's exceptional circumstances. And you said you don't want that.
You're absolutely correct. Everything you said was right. I don't want it because I believe that having this kind of forum to review a compromise helps to ensure that only valid requests for a compromise get raised, with our staff or with all of you. I think if you give the director, and I believe what you proposed, Chair Waters, was $10,000, raising the threshold from $500 to $10,000. I do believe that over time, what will happen is we're going to we'll get a flood of requests for compromises. Some will be good, some won't be, and we'll be spending a lot of administrative time going through it. That's why I believe we should keep that as is, but I do agree that at some point we should take a hard look at the situation where you have title holders that are not all recorded in the RPAD system.
I've spoken to your administrator, your staff, and this comes up every year. And what I've been told is tough luck. You know, you made a mistake, that's on you. You paid a higher tax until next year, which really hurts for some families. But in this instance, the reason why we're doing it this way is because you're saying the city made the mistake. Is that right? Otherwise, shall I file one of these every time a widow comes to me and says, Tommy, now I gotta pay 12 grand where I was paying 4 grand last year? I mean, I'm happy to do it that way.
We would look at it the same way. This, you know, I don't want to say as to what exactly happened because I don't know all of the facts. It's probably being, you know, it's documented with the Board of Review. But from my standpoint, I would definitely say that if anything comes in and, you know, we have to review it, we'll review it. But we get, you know, this taxpayer that we're supporting was very proactive. Taxpayer did everything right. I can say that as well. You know, in terms of filing the application for the credit, real property tax credit, in terms of filing the appeal, and the taxpayer, the widow, filed the appeal for both reinstatement of the home exemption and the tax credit. And it's just so happened that for whatever reason, mistake, she retracted her appeal for tax credit. Had she left it in, we would have automatically processed it because she did everything timely. And those facts and circumstances were considered for this situation.
Well, it wasn't just that she withdrew her appeal, and we don't know why, but really the mistake was that we didn't record the fact that she had already applied to be on for the exemption, right? I think that's where the mistake was, not on the taxpayer. The city made the mistake.
It's very possible. Like, I don't know all the facts, but just based on what I know, yeah, that's very possible.
Okay, and I guess that begs the question, how do we prevent this from happening again? Which, since you said you don't know all the facts, that you probably aren't able to answer that question.
I will say that I believe that, you know, that incident in terms of recording or not recording the spouse's title information into the system happened 3 to 4 decades ago, a while ago. I think today we're on better footing. We are, you know, working on filling our vacancies, and I do believe, you know, looking at the administrative team at real property assessment, we have a good bench, and we have a succession plan in place. So I would have to say, you know, I feel that controls have improved there with regard to, you know, ensuring that you know, information gets inputted properly into the system.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair Waters. Members, any further questions for Director Kawano? Thank you, Director Kawano. We will now proceed with in-person oral testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any registered testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Proceeding on with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any registered testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Members, seeing no further testimonies, we are in discussion. Okay. Seeing no further discussion, the chair recommends that Resolution 25-239 be reported out for adoption. Any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving on to agenda item number 3, Resolution 25-258, authorizing a transfer not to exceed $190,687 in general fund monies from the provision for grants, partnerships, and security activity, current expenses, character of expenditure, to the Department of Transportation Services, transportation performance and development activity, current expenses, character of expenditure for the fiscal year 2026 to cover the City and County of Honolulu's matching contribution required by the Federal Highway Administration for the project in the federal fiscal years 2023 to 2026 statewide transportation improvement program. And with us this morning, we have from our Department of Transportation Services, Director Roger Morton.
Thank you, Chair. Okimoto, Vice Chair. This is a matching funds so we can get our federal program going for our transportation demand management. My staff has put together a very short presentation. If the council would take a look at it.
Next.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair Okimoto, Chair Waters, council members. I'm Max Kalhammer with Department of Transportation Services, and we'd just like to talk to you a little bit about what the Transportation Demand Management Program is, what this transfer of funds is for. It's basically a program of incentives and encouragement strategies that would impact travel behavior on island, and so the return on investment for the local match is something that not necessarily quantifiable in terms of the city budget, but it's the return on investment in terms of travel behavior from the general public and from city employees. It was a plan that was passed in 2023, and we're implementing that plan now. Transportation demand management under the brand of HNL Connect. Next slide, please. And it involves a bunch of initiatives that are tailor-made for Honolulu. There will be a steering committee that involves public and private sector members. One of the programs that we're getting started is the restricted parking zone program. And that program is designed to be self-sustaining over time through permit fees, actually. There's mobile and web TDM applications for travel challenges, and there's an ongoing marketing campaign. The marketing campaign is really designed, next slide please, to impact travel behavior. And specifically the personal benefits that people get from choosing other modes of transportation. The main goal of the TDM, Transportation Demand Management Program, is to have members of the public and the city take less single occupancy vehicle trips, especially for commuting. And the personal benefits there are destination accessibility, the comparative benefits of driving versus not driving, and encouraging just the travel behavior change. So they really do affect our quality of life, and the return on investment there is congestion management. Next slide, please. So specifically, what have we done lately for marketing? We've done a marketing campaign that's really geared towards Skyline opening in October, and opening the door to a new commute is the theme. There's another theme that's drive less, live more is the other commuting strategy. And then just to note some other strategies that are involved in the TDM plan. Next slide is our city employee TDM program with city holo badges. So there could be a long-term budgetary impact from that as well if participation rates go up. And van pool strategies also, like if we are successful in reestablishing a van pool program, that too could be self-sustaining over time because of the vehicle miles traveled and the miles reported to the U.S. Federal Transit Administration, therefore giving the city more money back in return. But all of this is designed to impact travel behavior. And with that, I'll just leave it, and we're glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, members. Did we have any questions for DTS? Maybe if you could quickly just share what the $190,000 is used for.
The 190,000 is the 20% match for the 80% coming from the federal government. So it's roughly $1 million a year spent on the transportation demand management program. And that 190,000 goes into every task in the program except for van pool management, I believe. Yeah, so I think that's it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we'd like to welcome to the council chamber, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam. Okay, seeing no further questions for the department. Oh, Director Morton, did you want to share more? Oh, okay. Okay, we'll now proceed with in-person oral testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Proceeding now with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any registered or non-registered testifiers for this item?
Chair, yes, we have 2 people.
Okay. I believe I see Mr. Donald Sakamoto's hand up.
Good morning, Chair Okimoto, Vice Chair Nishimoto, Chair Waters, other committee members of the Budget Committee. Donald Sakamoto for the record. I supported this resolution last time for DTS. I would like to be part of the steering committee with Mr. Morton, so I think we need to give input from the disabled committee about transportation, but I support this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sakamoto. Members, do we have any questions for the testifier? Okay, seeing none. Next, we have Gregory Misakian. Did I get your name correct?
You said it.
Thank you.
Perfect. Sorry, I had to click on something. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the Council. Yes, my name is Gregory Misakian. You can also say it Misakian. It's pronounced 2 different ways. I just had a question. You previously asked about what the money would be used for, and we know now there's about $1 million of funds. I would like to know if this money is used just for marketing and outreach and planning, or if it's actually used for facilitating some of the programs behind that.
If you could, this space right now is to have testimony. So if you'd like to share your testimony on it, and maybe.
So, okay, if I say it in a different way, in a testimonial way, I have concerns with the way the money is being presented as far as what the use would be for. So my concern is that it may not go towards something that's really substantive. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Members, if we have any questions for the testifier. Okay, seeing no further questions. Members, we are now in discussion. And maybe Director Morton, if that's okay, if we could just have a quick response to exactly what the monies are used for based on the question, if it was used for marketing.
Yes, the money is really used to hire a consultant who helps us run the program. Part of the program is marketing. That's a outlay for marketing. Part of the program is public outreach. Part of the program is pure planning to do it. And there's a number of programs beyond the TDM portion. I think we talked about the parking portions of the program. So it is a multifaceted program that includes activities that are directly related to reducing trips. And it's not simply just marketing. Marketing is one component of it. This year, that component is aimed at our Skyline project.
Thank you very much, Director Morton. Members, if we have any further questions, any further discussion? Thank you very much, Director Morton.
Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, the chair recommends that Resolution 25-258 be reported out for adoption. Any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving on to agenda item number 4, Resolution 25-259, authorizing a transfer not to exceed $160,000 in general fund monies from the provision for grants, partnerships, and security activity, current expenses character or of expenditure to the Department of Transportation Services, Transportation Performance and Development Activity, Current Expenses Character of Expenditure for the fiscal year 2026 to cover the City and County of Honolulu's 20% matching contribution required by the Federal Highway Administration for the project in the fiscal year 2026 Oahu Metropolitan Planning Organization Overall Work Program. And with us again today, we have from the Department of Transportation Services, Director Roger Morton.
Thank you, Chair. We did submit written testimony for this particular one. It's very similar to the last resolution that we had. This is a program that would support safety planning. Our vision, specifically our Vision Zero program, aimed at reducing injuries and fatalities on our highways and streets. It is a 20% match from the provision for grants, and it would support an 80% planning grant from the federal government. It's included as one of our overall work program tasks within the Oahu Metropolitan Planning Organization's TIP.
Thank you, members. Do we have any questions for Director Morton? Seeing none, we will now proceed with in-person oral testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any registered testifiers for this item in person?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, thank you. Proceeding now with remote testimony. I believe online we have, again, Mr. Donald Sakamoto, followed by Mr. Gregory Masakian.
Good morning, Chair Okimoto, Vice Chair Nishimoto, Chair Waters, and other members of the council, members of the Budget Committee, Donald Sakamoto. Citizen for Fairly Wired, I'm the president. I attend the Oahu Metropolitan Planning Organization regularly as a member, and we voted on this. I support this resolution, very important for the tip, and that's all I have to say for now, but I support this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sakamoto. Members, do we have any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, we'll proceed with Mr. Gregory Masakian. I'm going to get your name right one of these days.
Done. Okay. No, that's okay. You said it fine. Either way is okay, but I do pronounce it Masakian, but other people sometimes say Masakian. So appreciate the consideration for that. I have just one comment on this one, and it goes back to the previous, but it's pertaining to this. So Director Morton said something about hiring a consultant, and I'm always concerned when I hear consultant. We seem to hire a lot of consultants in Hawaii, and we don't seem to have the right staff within the departments. So I'm just concerned in my testimony that the cost for the consultant for that previous resolution and for this one, for the money transfer, these consultants may actually be taking away quite a bit of the money, the funds that could actually be used for betterment of the residents of Hawaii. So I'd ask simply that we look more closely at staffing properly with the right people, the right professionals in these different agencies and departments, so that we don't have to go keep hiring consultants to do these extracurricular activities that we should be doing within the departments. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Members, do we have any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, clerks, do we have any other testifiers for this measure?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Members, we are now in discussion. Any discussion? Director Martin, could you just share how much is actually spent on consultants? Okay.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Thanks for your question. My name is Jermaine Salim at Department of Transportation Services. As Director Morton was saying, the $160,000 is our local match for the federal money allocated to this program. And the tasks that we have for this program include updates to our data dashboard, crash data quality improvements, updating our high injury locations, and the state of safety report, which is a 5-year report, design recommendations and guidelines, and a lighting needs assessment at our high injury locations that we identified in the Oahu Vision Zero plan. So it is kind of an interesting range of tasks that wouldn't really be covered by one person at the city. So we are looking to hire a consultant that would probably be more data-based, but then have an engineering component for the lighting needs. And so that funding is used for that contract.
It's just one consultant, and how much is used to pay for the consultant?
Yes, that
160?
yes. Sorry, no, the entire contract would be worth $800,000, of which $640,000 is the federal component and $160,000 is the local match.
So you're saying the total is used to pay the consultant?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Director Martin.
And just to clarify, the source of the funding, of the federal funding, is planning money. It is specifically for transportation planning. It is not a program that would move the earth or do things like that. It is it's planning money, and it is matched. It is available to us if we match it with local funds to the 20% rate.
Thank you. I'm just wondering also with the testifiers, I think that's a fair point. So we're spending $800,000 on one consultant. So if my math is correct, we're spending $800,000 on one consultant.
I don't have the exact number, but that sounds that sounds a normal number. Up to my, and they're nodding yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Director Morton. Members, any further questions? Okay. Seeing none, we are now in discussion. Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, the chair recommends that Resolution 25-259 be reported out for adoption. Any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving on to agenda item number 5, Bill 54, 2025, CD1, updating and amending certain sections of Chapter 15B, revised ordinances of Honolulu 2021 as they pertain to the fare structure for the multimodal municipal transportation system. Members, we have a proposed posted CD2 OCS 2025-0703/9/8/2025 at 3:02 p.m. submitted by myself. For your information, the amendments are listed on the agenda. We have a hand-carried proposed CD2 OCS 2025-0766/9/22/2025 at 4:42, submitted by Councilmember Dos Santos Tam. I would like to, at this time, defer to Councilmember Dos Santos Tam for any explanation.
Thank you, Chair. This is mostly for discussion because I think if we were to take this up in a more serious way, it would probably be best suited in a separate bill. But that said, what it would do is right now, the existing exemption for low-income individuals is limited to those making 30% AMI and below. That's an individual making about $32,000 a year, or a family of 4 making about $41,000 a year. My proposal would increase the threshold to 50% of area median income, which would be an individual making about $53,000, or a family of 4 where both parents or maybe one parent is making $76,000 a year total. Right now, the existing low-income transit program only utilizes about 37% of the $1.5 million we've allocated to it. It's obviously underutilized, and if we were to expand the services, I'd like to find a way where we can get more people onto the bus and rail, and also assist those with low income in our community.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam. With us again, we have from the Department of Transportation Services, Director Roger Morton.
For the record, again, Chair Roger Morton, Director of Transportation Services. I thank Councilmember Dos Santos Tam for the thoughtful thing. I did have the chance to take a a quick look at what the impact of that would be. My estimate of 30% low, very extremely low income would account for about 110,000 people on Oahu. Looking at a 50% level, that goes up to probably about 168, 170,000 people. So about a 60,000 person increase. As I look at the issue is not I think the low income program as presently set is underutilized, and I would agree with Councilmember Dos Santos Tam on that. However, the underutilization is, as I say, there's probably 110,000 people eligible, and there's about 4,500 low income certifications that are provided in the last year. So I think the issue is one of why do we have such a low utilization out of a large population? And I'm afraid that if we were to raise the criteria from 30% to 50%, the result would be a significant reduction in revenue for transit. And it's very much a philosophical issue of where do we go with that. And I support the notion of trying to be targeted and trying to figure out a way where, as our costs for transit go up, that we target the most vulnerable people and the people that are going to be impacted the most by rising fares.
Thank you, Director Martin. Members, do we have any questions for Director Martin? Chair Waters.
How much will this? Well, let me back up. Sorry, I didn't even get a chance to get my first question out. Bill 54 seeks to raise the rates for bus riders, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what my colleague's trying to do is to try to lessen the impact of raising these rates. Would you prefer a no on Bill 54 or a yes on proposed CD2?
There are more than one CD2, and I think we should probably have a discussion of the merits of both.
Okay. I'll let you lead that discussion. Please.
Are we discussing the second, the chair's CD2?
We can start there. And I know the second one came in later, so anything if you'd like to add in as to that one, but we could start with the CD2 from my 302.
The difference is in the two bills. In the chair's CD2, she keeps the senior rate the same rate as it is now, and makes a few changes to reduces my authority to set fares for specific events, such as concerts, athletic events, and those types of special services. And that's pretty much it. Now, in the original Bill 54, I estimated it would be about $4 million of revenue increase. This is at a time when our costs go up by multiples of that $4 million number per year. And so it was trying to keep the fare resolution, the fare box recovery ratio, at least not from going underwater. And I still think that the $4 million of revenue is a significant dollar amount, although it pales in comparison to the subsidy size of the transit system. So it is, I don't think it's incidental, but it is certainly a very small percentage of the amount of property tax and vehicle registration money that we transfer to transit each year. So that's the balancing act, is trying to as costs go up over time, try to raise rates, albeit at only a percentage of what the rates go up as That's just the way that public transportation is in this country right now. That's the philosophical part of it. I don't know whether I'm really qualified to say this is a better way or that, because it's not dollars and cents. At the end of the day, it's live, living flesh and blood that ride our transit services every day. And you know, my attempt is to I've been very supportive of the low income concept and the other concepts that we have for people with disabilities, for seniors, for other groups like that you know, that I think deserve a break in our society. So I'm happy to answer questions, but that's pretty much my take on the two bills. I think for the low income, you know, the vetting issue is an issue. We don't do that at DTS. That's done by DCS. It sometimes requires certified tax returns for verifying incomes of households. And that can be a daunting task for individuals and for households to go to the IRS and get certified copies of their tax returns and whatnot, and put them in a bundle that can be then analyzed by the Department of Community Services. I think that might be an area that we might want to look at, is how can we increase the accessibility of the low-income fare by reducing the barriers for how to get it.
Thank you, Director Martin. Council Chair Waters.
Thank you. So how much do we subsidize the public transportation? And to me, that's not a problem. I think we should. The more people who ride public transportation, the better. So I don't mind subsidizing it, but I'm just curious, how much are we talking about?
It depends. Like, I think that we should look at handy van as a special case. So I'll take handy van out of the mix. I think you know, handy van is the most expensive form, and it's really a different type of service. If I took handy van out of the mix, then our public costs would be about $350 million. Our revenue would be from passengers would be about $42 million. And our revenue that we use from the federal government would be about $21 million. So in rough numbers, about $63 million in revenue for about a $350 million in expenditure.
So we're looking at increasing the revenue from the box from 42 million to 46 million? Is that about right?
The revenue resolution that the council has in, you know, right now, the current one, looks at bus only. So it would be about 40 million of passenger revenue on about 280 million or so.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair Waters. Members, any further questions for the director? So Director Martin, I know that you may not have had time to look at the second CD too, but if we didn't, and I appreciate you meeting with me and my team offline, given those numbers that you provided us, what would the cost be if we were to consider adjusting the rates again to now include low income by maybe the 50% AMI versus the 30%? What would that look like?
It's hard to give an estimate, particularly, but having done it before on looking at other criteria, for example, Medicaid eligibility. I think there's about 155,000 individuals that would be eligible if we chose that. This is a little larger than that, so I think that the number would be a loss of revenue of between 6 to 8 million, maybe 10 million.
Okay, thank you. So then we would have to, right now, if we're generating about 63 million, you're saying that it would be, we'd be looking at 50 million that we'd have to and we would see a loss of 10 million about.
Correct. And really, where we differ from most of our peers on the continent is that our rate for special groups, for low income, for disabled, for seniors, is only a fraction of the discount that is typical. You know, ours is a 95% discount. That's a pretty large discount. My view is that I would be more in line with endorsing increasing the eligible pool if the fare received per person was more than $45 a year. That's an incredibly low fare. You know, is $10 a month reasonable? I don't know, but that I think is the dilemma that we're in, is that if we raise the base while the fare is at 95% discount, it's a losing proposition for us from a fiscal point of view.
Thank you. Seeing that we have the $350 million cost and currently about $63 million, at what point, if the rates do not increase, at what point, as much as we want to subsidize it, does this not become sustainable?
Well, that's really a question for the council for that. There does reach a point. I mean, costs go up every year, and the question is, do they go up at the same rate as tax revenue? If they do, then I think that we're in a sustainable spot now, and we probably would be sustainable going into the future. If costs go up faster than tax receipts, then we get to an unsustainable situation. You know, the term used on the continent is the fiscal cliff. And that's what, you know, that's when we would need to look at reducing services rather than to avoid costs.
Okay, thank you. Members, any further questions for the director? Seeing no further questions, we'll now proceed with in-person oral testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any registered or non-registered testifiers for this item in person?
Yes, Chair, we have Brian Mick in person.
Okay, aloha and good morning, Mr. Mick. If you could just state your name for the record.
Yep. Aloha, Chair Okimoto and committee members. I am Brian Mick, representing the Disability and Communication Access Board, and our Executive Director, Kirby Shaw. DCAB opposes Bill 54 CD1 as well as the posted CD2. We do appreciate that the posted CD2 includes Medicare card holders in the subsidized fare category, something that CD1 did not, and we do support that being part of any final bill. Separate from that, the CD1 eliminates personal care attendants from the fare rate table, leaving in only a provision for a fare waiver when the rider with a disability has a paratransit ID card. However, not all individuals with disabilities will have a paratransit ID card, especially if they're visiting either from the mainland or possibly from one of the other counties. Therefore, we support amending the bill to ensure that the fare is waived for all personal care attendants, regardless of whether the rider has a paratransit ID. CD2 actually worsens the situation by deleting all PCA fare waivers entirely. This would make it more expensive for a rider with a personal care attendant to ride bus or rail, in contrast to the handy van service, where the PCAs are mandated by federal law to ride for free. Consultants have recommended that DTS do the opposite and incentivize people to use bus and rail over handy van. And additionally, PCAs are important in emergency situations. As we saw during the recent tsunami, many riders had to adjust their plans. So we would recommend that the PCAs continue to be allowed to ride for free when they're accompanying a rider with a disability, and that the Rate Commission could be given an opportunity to look at this issue and DTS present any statistics they might have on how many PCAs are riding on a daily basis, and if they're worried about fraud, what their estimates are for the rate of fraud. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, do we have any questions for the testifier? Seeing no further questions, clerks, do we have any other in-person testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, we'll now proceed with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any registered testifiers for this item?
Yes, Chair, we have Donald Sakamoto and 2 others.
Okay, we'd like to start off with Mr. Sakamoto.
Good morning, Chair Okimoto, Vice Chair Nishimoto, Chair Waters, and rest of the committee members. Donald Sakamo for the record. Citizens for a Fair Air Day Ride. I fully support Disability Communication Access Board's testimony. Brian Mick. I attend their meetings annually, regularly actually, and this discussion was brought up. Besides the personal care attendant and CD2 that was mentioned by Brian, my concern is the 25-cent surcharge for cash payment on bus to use holo card instead. That's kind of harsh. Some people can't put too much money on their holo card, and I'm still waiting for the Department of Transportation to do the wallet so people can do it on their phone instead of having a holo card, which costs money to manufacture. And then also with regards to I can't think of anything right now, but that's my 2 points. One more thing, communication, outreach to the low income. Yes, community services need to do a better job as well as Department of Transportation Services. I find when I ride the paratransit services or I hear from people on the bus, they don't know about the program. So more outreach like Director Martin is needed to get the word out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sakamoto. Members, do we have any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, we'll proceed with Mr. Gregory Misakian.
Thank you. Aloha again. Gregory Misakian. I currently serve as the president of the Kokua Council, which is an elder advocacy organization in the state since 1972. I'm speaking here today on all of my testimony on behalf of myself as an individual. And I will say, excuse me, there's some noise from above. So if you hear hammering, it's not coming from my apartment. It's from the roof of my building. With that said, the concern I have is that when you raise these prices, I lived in San Francisco for a while also. When you raise these prices the way you're intending to do, you actually, you're not gonna get more revenue. You'll actually, in my opinion, you'll be decreasing revenue because the more you raise the monthly rates, often the less you have people signing up for those monthly passes. And what you'll get is people will just pay when they go use the service. You'll actually reduce your revenue stream. And overall, you're not going to have what you expect. So I would ask to look carefully at the numbers and make sure rail is excluded. You gave a large number. I'll just leave you with this. If you could ask about the rail, was the large dollar amount including rail? I currently think it is for what's subsidized. So if you could speak on that and kind of separate that, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, do we have any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, proceeding now with Mr. Ben Sadowski.
Aloha. Ben Sadowski with Unite Here Local 5. And we just have some comments on the bill. We're concerned about increasing the bus fares. Obviously, our communities are struggling and the cost of living is going up. We want to encourage people to take the bus and the rail. In that vein, we've negotiated agreements with several of the union hotels where the employers will put in money towards subsidizing bus passes, and we want to be able to expand that in the future. And we want to encourage people to keep taking those public transportation services. I think, we support the direction that is contemplated in that Reso 25-262, which I think is up for hearing tomorrow. But basically, that public transportation is a public service and it shouldn't have to pay for itself. We want to make it easier for people to make the decision to take the bus and the rail. And there's so many considerations that go into that normally. And so, being able to hold down the costs, I think will make it easier for people to make the decision to take it rather than to take their cars. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sadowski. Members, do we have any questions for the testifier? Okay, seeing none, members, we are in discussion. Is Director Morton still? Oh, Director Morton, if I could just have maybe a couple of follow-ups based on some of the testimonies that were shared. If you could explain the PCA fare, and also maybe if you could explain the holo cars and payments. We've had this discussion.
With respect to the PCA on fixed route, it is basically it's just difficult to administer as who is a PCA. From a driver's perspective, if you say you're a PCA, you are a PCA. From a rail perspective, our gates are designed to accommodate one person at a time. If a group would come forward and would certify PCAs for fixed route, that's not allowed for paratransit, then I would probably have I'd be able to administer a program, but I don't have a way to certify who is a PCA and who's not. If I had a way to do that, I would issue a special holo card, but I don't have that ability.
So, but the alternative is to use the handy van, and the PCA therefore is allowed on there.
Well, I do agree that we would like to encourage handy van users to use the bus. There are instances where disabled people require a PCA to use a bus. A very small number, a very, very small number of individuals are in that category. So again, I just don't have a way to administer the program so that it is not abused by those that don't really need a PCA. In the paratransit environment, that's a reservation system. It's a very different one. And in the paratransit environment, it's required by federal law.
Okay, thank you. And with regards to forms of payment?
Yeah, we have, I'm happy to report that we are beginning to work on making our holo system compatible with open payments. And that means that people that have a contactless credit card will be able to use that directly without having to get a holo card. They'll be able to receive the benefits of holo, which would be fare capping, and be able to put product on the card, like a monthly pass. Although I constantly try to get this word out to almost everybody, is it's better for you just to put money on the card because we'll give you the best fare. If you put money on the card and the monthly pass is $80, once you reach $80, the rest of the month is free. So if for some reason you don't reach $80, then you pay less. So you always get the best fare if you put money on the card. And we'll be able to do that too with our open payment cards as well.
Thank you, Director Morton. And for those who have asked questions, prefer to pay in cash, what is the department's stance or plans to deal with that? Cash payments? Cash.
Cash. We don't, our society has changed a lot after COVID, right? All of us went to a lot more of tap and pay type transactions. The use of credit cards went up. We're not at a point now where we would do it, but the reality is that it costs us a lot of money to process the $11 million in cash that we still get. We used to get a lot more in cash, and the cost of handling that cash has not gone down, although the amount of cash has gone down. We still pull vaults out of bus every night. We still count money every day. And so some transit systems are beginning to look at going cashless, as are many other things. You can't get on a plane and pay cash anymore. So I think we're years away from looking at that, but we are still trying to incentivize people to use the holo card. It is, you'll get a much better fare on the holo card than you would paying with cash. And so our challenge is to convince our local people, particularly, to get that holo card. Most people have made the transition. The ones that have not sometimes, need a little kick in the achole to get the card because they'll save money over time with some type of card like that. The $3, the $3.25 fare is the most expensive way to ride. Most of that cash comes from visitors, and that's cool with me.
Thank you very much, Director Morton. Members, any further questions or discussion? Seeing no further questions, any further discussion on the matter? Chair Waters?
Yeah, based on all the discussions we've been having, I'm not sure we should be voting on this just yet. I think there's a lot to digest, so I would suggest deferral.
Any further discussion? I would like to thank, I've appreciated Director Morton and his team meeting with us. I also appreciate Committee Vice Chair Nishimoto's team working with mine, trying to figure out how to find the best balance and compromise on this. We have before us a proposed CD2, and then we had a second one. What is the members' take on moving forward, or maybe I can do what Chair Waters does, kind of get a feel for what your take is. I know that Chair Waters has expressed deferral. I was inclining to proceed with my CD2 and then postpone further hearings so that department can then hear, look at Tyler DeSantos Tam's draft before we proceed.
I'm new
Committee
to
Vice
the
Chair Nishimoto.
council, so I'm not sure procedurally how this works. So what you just said was you want to vote on your CD2, but then wait to send it to the floor to...
We would then postpone to hear it back in committee again based on the underlying bill, which is the CD1, and give the department time to look at Councilmember DeSantos Tam's CD2.
So you
CD2.
Sorry, Chair.
Sorry,
I
CD2.
apologize. So you'd put your CD2 into the underlying bill, and then we'd wait on the underlying bill to vote maybe next month.
Yes.
Am I following that?
From what I
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
You're okay with that? Okay. Yes.
I'm
Councilmember
sorry,
Kiana.
the DTS, did they support your amendment?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I support that recommendation.
Thank you. I did want to allow them time to look at Councilmember DeSantos Tam's CD2. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the discussion. That being said, the chair recommends that Bill 54, 2025, CD1 be amended to the posted CD2 identified as OCS 2025-0703/9/8, 2025 at 3:02 p.m. and be further amended to, in Section 2, amend Section 15B-2.1, revised ordinances of Honolulu 2021 by reinstating a new subsection M in lieu of the cash column on the furthest right in the fare structure table to be read as followed. Section Part M, the department may establish a cash-only special events single ride fare for special events such as concerts, athletic games, and other large community events where non-scheduled transit service is provided. The special events single ride fare will be sold at $6.25 for all passenger categories under subsection B. Any objections or reservations to the amended posted CD1 at 3:02? Hearing none, the bill has been amended to a CD2. The chair then recommends that action of Bill 54, 2025 CD2 be postponed to a date and time to be determined by the committee chair. Any objections or reservations? Seeing none, thank you very much, members. And thank you very much, Director Morton and your team. Okay. Members, now moving on to agenda item number 6, Bill 59, 2025, repealing the requirement that industrial users who discharge or cause to be discharged certain wastewaters into the public sewers pay a surcharge in accordance with ROH Section 43-6.6. And with us today, we have from our Department of Environmental Services, Director Roger Babcock.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair Okimoto, council members, committee members. Roger Babcock, Director, Department of Environmental Services. We do support Bill 59, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Morton. Members, any questions at Chair Waters?
Well, why are we doing this?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So this is basically kind of a housekeeping item. As part of Bill 60, 2024 Bill 60, which amended the sewer fees, we deleted the section 6.6, 43-6.6, which was the surcharge calculation for industrial users, but we neglected to delete the reference to it that is in this bill. So it just sort of cleans that up. The charges were already eliminated, but this is a reference to those charges that no longer exist. Otherwise, it's housekeeping, changing from some things from shall to may not, et cetera.
I'm just curious then, why are we not charging industrial users?
Yeah, so we do, industrial users are regulated in several different ways. The most important way is we have, a lot of the ordinance has to do with industrial users, and we issue permits to them. We do inspections, they have to do annual reporting and things like that. And most industrial users have to, they either have to, they have to meet the permit requirements in terms of concentrations of pollutants, or they have to have their own on-site pretreatment system. So that exists now, and that hasn't changed. This was a more blanket sort of surcharge program that was that's never been used. It requires, if you look carefully in there, it says that the city needs to start a program and monitor, install and monitor all industrial users, create manholes on their property, install monitoring equipment. The industrial users all have to pay for that. And then we would gather data and determine these surcharges. So that's something that the department never implemented in the past or the present. The other problem with the surcharge was the formula that was used. We're not sure really where the formula came from, and the surcharge numbers, values, the actual dollar amounts, can't be correlated to actually increase in costs for the department to treat the water. So we feel that the best way is to continue with the way we actually do regulate the industrial users now, which is through our pretreatment permitting program, and so yeah, that's the main reasons.
So can you tell us what is an industrial user?
So an industrial user is a non-residential user. So everyone that doesn't fall in single family or multifamily residential is considered industrial. So it does include commercial things like restaurants and businesses of all different types.
So restaurants and businesses would no longer be required to pay a sewer fee?
No, that's not true. They still pay a sewer fee. They just don't pay, there's no provision for a surcharge for overstrength wastewater, high-strength wastewater, which is what was eliminated.
Okay. But I guess it just seems so broad, right? By saying non-industrial users are everybody except for residential users. So we're just categorizing everybody who is not residential in one category, despite the fact that they may be discharging more serious things into the system. No?
Yeah, that's correct. So we do have our pretreatment programs, so they are all part of that. So we have permits, we have inspections, et cetera. So they're all inspected and regulated carefully. and they have a bunch of provisions, in their permit that they have to follow. But we currently don't charge them extra for their wastewater. They pay the same rates as all users. So it's in the rate tables. There are residential and non-residential. Industrial is all non-residential are industrial. That's the same meaning.
Right. I guess that's my problem, because when you think of industrial, I think of big business, right? Different from, say, a restaurant. But you're saying you got this, right? That you have safeguards in place. Next, so I'm just curious, I don't want to be nitpicking, but you changed a lot of the wording from no person shall not discharge to a person may not. Why did you do that? Just as, page 1, 43-1.8, rather than no person shall discharge, blah, blah, blah. You changed it to a person may not discharge. And you do that throughout the bill. Just curious
if I could,
why.
Director Babcock, Chair Waters, that was housekeeping measures that OCS gave us that direction.
Okay, why OCS? To me, that makes it less clear in my mind. Like, I don't understand that.
Sorry, Chair.
I don't, Director, you want to take a stab at that? Do you think it's less clear when you say a person may not versus no person shall?
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that, Chair. It seems to be a legal type wording, and it's beyond my area of expertise. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's what I figured too, but I figured since we have Dr. Babcock here, I'd ask him. Okay, yeah, to me it doesn't work, but thank you.
Thank you, Chair Waters, and thank you for the questions. It's good for us to inquire. OCS is saying that at this point, that standard OCS, they changed from negative to positive in their writings. So this was mainly a housekeeping measure. And thank you, Director Babcock, for being here to answer the questions. I know that these were the recommendations he provided to us.
Okay, but may not versus shall not. To me, shall not seems way stronger, right? Where especially when we're talking about discharging stormwater, surface water, groundwater, roof runoff, and all that other stuff, right? May not just seems weak.
No,
but
fair.
Just my opinion.
Thank you. No, fair points. Members, do we have any other questions for Director Babcock? Okay. Thank you, Director Babcock. See no further questions for our director. We'll now proceed with in-person oral testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any registered testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Proceeding now with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any registered testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none. Chair, I'm sorry. Someone just raised their hand.
I think we have, again, Mr. Gregory Misakian.
Thank you. And I apologize too that I'm still dealing with the loud banging on my roof. We have a project that unfortunately DPP isn't addressing, but it's part of what I call the fraud project here.
We can hear you. We can hear you clearly. It's not interfering.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So that's a project issue for another day. But what I'm hearing on this, and I'm sorry, I was trying to read the bill. This wasn't something I joined today to speak on, but I was so concerned about what I was seeing in just the description, and also I concur with what Chair Waters said about changing the may to shall. It's kind of weakening the wording. But I'm concerned, is this, and this is a question you guys have to ask, is this something that a non-residential, if it sounded like an industrial or whatever, could actually discharge something and not be liable for that? Is that what I garnered? I wasn't able to get to the end of the bill in a timely manner. So that's my concern. If it is, then I have a strong concern about this from an environmental standpoint. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, if we have any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, members, we are in discussion. Okay, seeing no further discussion, the chair recommends that Bill 59, 2025 be reported out for second reading and scheduling of a public hearing. Any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving on to agenda item number 7, Bill 61, 2025, addressing real property tax exemptions. And with us today, we have our Department of Budget and Fiscal Services Director, Andy Kawano.
Good morning, Budget Chair Nishimoto, Chair Waters, Honorable Council members, Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. I'd like to thank Councilmember Nishimoto and Councilmember Dos Santos Tam for meeting with us to discuss Bill 61. We obviously do not oppose the correction because it addresses a discrepancy between the FAR ratio in HCDA's rules versus what's in ordinance and what has been in ordinance for many, many years, since the beginning of the program. We would like to express a concern. We'd like a add-in to Bill 61. So we ask council members to consider this to, restrict the use of the expanded FAR to those taxpayers that are renewing or extending their exemption. And the reason why is we do not want a flood of requests coming in for properties that are that have FAR higher than 1.5. So we're just requesting that with in understanding that it would be council members' decision as to whether to put it in. So thank you, and I'll be here for questions.
Members, do we have any questions for Director Kawano, Committee Vice Chair Nishimoto?
Thank you. Thank you, Director Kawano. I appreciate the administration's support in trying to correct the oversight that HCDA created in this case. I don't have a problem with what you guys are asking for. I know of one situation where someone missed the deadline last year and they were planning to reapply. They actually did get this exemption in years past, but because they missed it, they did not get it last year, but they were planning to reapply for it. If we can capture language that maybe helps them too, that would be great. I'd like to work on the language with you guys so we can get it right. So it does what you want, and it also does what we want. I know you know that we have to keep this bill moving. This is just kind of an insurance in case we can't work everything out. Are you okay with us passing this bill today with the understanding that we'll work on this amendment, and that if this bill were ultimately to pass, we try to work in what you want?
Yes, we're fine with that, and we want to let you know that all of the notice and communication we're doing as a team has been working because there's good progress, in terms of taxpayers that need to extend that were already a part of the program. So they're coming in as we speak. So the progress has been good.
And like I said, I do appreciate your administration's support and willingness to work on this issue. It's not ideal. It was not created by you or the council in any way, but it is a situation that we're having to deal with. So I appreciate your support on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Committee Vice Chair Nishimoto. Members, any further questions for Director Kawano? Thank you, Director Kawano. We will now proceed with in-person oral testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any registered testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. We will now proceed with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any registered testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, seeing no further testifiers, members, we are in discussion. Committee Vice Chair Nishimoto.
Thank you, Chair. I do appreciate your willingness to put this on the agenda. Like I stated previously, I don't have a problem with what Director Kawano wants to do. I would want to do that myself. In the interest of time, I ask for your indulgence in passing this out without the amendment. My staff will work with BFS to get an amendment correct, so that when it comes back to this committee, or if it does come back to this committee, we can put in that amendment. This bill is really insurance in case we can't work it out on the side. So it really is something that needs to move. If with your indulgence, but I hope we would pass it out today without that amendment, and with the assurance that my staff will work with BFS to work on that.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Nishimoto. Members, any further discussion? Okay, seeing no further discussion, I do appreciate your sharing your take, and I do have faith and trust in your office in doing the work. I appreciate Director Kawano in sharing their suggestions and recommendations. Given the discussion that we've had, the chair does recommend that Bill 61, 2025 be reported out for a second reading and scheduling of a public hearing. I know in that time that we have space to then fix the measure to make it the right way that you want it to be. Committee Vice Chair Nishimoto. Any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving on to agenda item number 8, Bill 34, 2024, CD1, addressing real property taxes. The introducer, Councilmember Kiaina, did you want to expound on this at this time before we bring up the director?
Chair, I have talked about this measure. If you don't mind, I will explain more during discussion.
Yes. Thank you very much. So we will now welcome Director Kawano to the podium, our Director of Budget and Fiscal Services.
Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services, again, for the record. Thank you, Budget Chair, for posting Bill 34. We've been working with Councilmember Kiaina on this bill, and it's a situation where we have thresholds for residential A, and now the newer TVU classifications that are being reviewed for update and increase. So we go to 3 tiers. And we've covered the 3 tiers in the past. So the tiers will start at $1.3 million for Res A, up from $1 million, and $900,000 for TVUs, transient vacation units. We will work with our budget team to work on rates that apply to it for council member review when we go through the budget process. Our goal will be to, as much as possible, be revenue neutral. So there will be rate adjustments, most likely at the upper tiers, but we definitely would like to move forward with this one, and I'll take questions.
Thank you, Director Kawano. Members, if we have any questions for the Director, Councilmember Kiaina.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Kawano, and thank you to you and your staff for working me on this, with me on this measure. Testifiers, both the realtors as well as constituents of mine, have expressed concern that the measure does not provide for automatic adjustment based on rising property values. Could you touch upon that and share your why we were unable to do that?
So BFS's policy and approach over the years has been to go through regular reviews as opposed to automatic indexed increases of these thresholds. And the reason why is we have dates that are firm in terms of, when we do, when we take the snapshot of our records to do the assessment. We then have the firm December 12th date every year as to when the notices have to go out, by classification of taxpayer. And then we have the firm December 15th through January 15th date for appeal. So we believe that if we go with an automatic adjustment approach based on index or some other measure, that part may be compromised where we have those firm dates to go through the process, as well as we may have issues with regard to budgeting real property tax revenues. If we have the rates agreed upon and fixed, subject to regular review, as needed, depending on the economy, valuations of real property and so on, it just makes way more sense, and we're able to provide more accurate real property tax valuation certifications and more accurate budgeting, especially for real property tax revenues. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kiaina. Members, any further questions? Council Chair Waters.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your support of this measure. I just have a clarifying question. On page 3 of the bill, in defining residential A, it says residential A excludes any parcel or portion thereof improved with military housing located on or outside of a military base. I can see why we would exclude it if it's on the military base, but why are we excluding housing that's not on a military base, but for military housing? Because wasn't there a report that Congresswoman Tokudo talked about how a lot of the military is taking up local housing? Or is this housing that's built on military property that's not on base? I mean, just need clarification and wondering why we're doing this.
Thank you, Chair Waters. I think I know why, but we have our administrator here, and if Stephen doesn't mind, he has the historical knowledge on that, so I'll call him up.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, Budget Chair, Council Chair. Sorry, I don't have the answer. We probably should check with CORE on that and the history of it. I think it relates to the overall tax base as far as military housing on and off base. So to be honest, I don't have the answer, and we got to do some research.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I just caught it.
No.
First time.
Great question. It's a fair question. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't want to hold up the bill, but maybe this is something we can look at in a separate bill. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Council Chair Waters. Members, any further questions? That was a fair question. I think it impacts my area too in my district. So thank you, Chair Waters, for bringing that point up. Okay, seeing no further questions for the department, we'll now proceed with in-person oral testimony in the council chamber. And I believe we have with us today Mr. Myung-Oh from the Honolulu Board of Realtors.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Myung-Oh here on behalf of Suzanne Young, CEO of the Honolulu Board of Realtors, in support of this bill, Bill 34. This bill represents much needed update to residential A property tax classification threshold to much better reflect the market realities. We appreciate the work of the introducer, Councilmember Kiaina, and the committee. We appreciate your support, and hopefully we can meet again in October.
Thank you very much, members. Do we have any questions for the testifier? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Myung, for being here. Clerks, do we have any other in-person testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Seeing none, we'll now proceed with remote testimony. Do we have Oh, I believe we do have a registered remote testifier, Ms. Linda Howe.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm here. I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to testify. I've submitted both written and oral testimony on several occasions, and I heard Director Kawano say that his department is not able to include an automatic adjustment for increasing property valuations. Well, he's relying on regular reviews. So I would ask, how regular is that? Because it's been 10 years since this threshold has been renewed or considered or evaluated. And in that time, my property taxes and the rent that my tenants pay and the decrease in my values have more than doubled. My property taxes went from $3,200 to $6,500 a year just by exceeding that threshold. So I would encourage you, please, if you're not going to include an automatic mechanism for adjustments, then you need to schedule and commit to regular reviews so that you don't repeat this same cycle over and over again of regular households becoming taxed at TBU rates. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Howell. Members, if we have any questions for the testifier? Seeing none and seeing no further remote or in-person testimonies, members, we are in discussion. Councilmember Kia Aina.
Thank you, Chair. And members, you know, we've had a lot of hearings and discussions on this, so I won't go into the reason for why this is timely, but I do want to say that I do agree with the concerns expressed by the previous testifier, as well as the Board of Realtors, with regard to other avenues that are necessary to provide relief for those who have residential A, many of whom are actually renting at market rate. Yesterday, I introduced a Bill 63, 2025, which is a bill to provide property dedication for affordable long-term residential use. Under current law, we have a current law that has not been utilized because the AMI, area median income for renters, is at 80%, and not a single individual has availed themselves of that opportunity. What it does is it allows for property owners to be charged at the residential rate as opposed to the residential A rate. It's a big difference, $4 versus $11.40. And so what my bill does is it increases the area median income to 100%. And during the course of discussion, I think that we will find whether that is a level that would provide for those who own those homes to rent it to those with that AMI. And I think that hopefully I will be calling Ms. Howe separately to let her know of that. But what would happen if in this dedication, it would be a 5-year dedication, but they just need to rent it to someone for over 12 months. Again, they will be charged the residential rate as opposed to the residential A rate. And what that does is it hopefully is another tool that could be utilized to incentivize homeowners who are renting to rent it to local families who are in need. And so I'm hoping that this would complement the effort of Bill 34. And lastly, I just want to say that I know there are a lot of tax measures that are out there, and I also recommend, I'm hoping that with the support of my colleagues to move this bill forward and enact into law, Bill 34, 2024, CD1, I would ask that for all other tax bills, including Bill 63, 2025, which I just introduced, I respectfully ask that that we convene a permitted interaction group on real property taxes to look holistically at all of the various tax bills that we have on the table and try to address it accordingly. I know a lot of the members of this council have asked for it, as well as stakeholders, as well as the Department of Fiscal Services. So again, I urge your support of my measure today. I am addressing some of the concerns that have been expressed by testifiers by introducing another measure which would provide tax relief for residential A homeowners so that they could rent to those local families who are at an area median income capped at 100%. And I also asked for permitted interaction group to consider that measure as well as all of the other RPT measures that have been introduced in the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kiaina. Council Chair Waters.
Thank you. I want to thank the introducer of Bill 34 and as well as you, Chair of the Budget Committee. This is a big deal, right? We've been talking about this for years. I remember walking door to door in my community and people being very, very upset about residential A and the low threshold. So we're finally getting it done. It's poised to go on for third reading, so I'm happy about that. Thank you to the realtors for coming out and support. You're a hard bunch to get to support some of the measures that we do. But we're on the same page on this one, coupled with the fact that we're raising the homeowner's exemption for kupuna, raising the homeowner's exemption for everybody else. We are listening to the people out there that cost of living issues are important, and Bill 34 today addresses that specifically. So thank you.
Thank you, Chair Waters. Councilmember Kiaina.
Chair, I also wanted to thank Chair Waters because he has been fighting on this issue ever since he's been in office. And sometimes I think it's only a matter of time. It's been, you know, we have to measuredly make improvements, and I just think that the time is now. So thank you so much for your leadership on this as well.
Thank you, Councilmember Kiaina. I also want to mahalo. I know that Chair Waters, as Councilmember Kiaina has shared, that you have been advocating for this before I was in this position. And I thank you for being so open and allowing Councilmember Kiaina to then take the lead on this, and that we were able to work together in alignment with the bills that we have introduced and passed. These three things work together. And I think that's important for us to know that individually they may not make as much sense, but together they do. And I want to thank Councilmember Kiaina for working with us and doing the best that you can to present something that is going to be fair. Thank you for giving us a heads up of what you're planning in the future. But I am thankful, and I hope that this will let the residents of our city to know that we're working hard. We care about our constituents, our taxpayers, and that's what this is about. So I appreciate the collaborative effort, and thank you for the department as well in working with us on this. That being said, the chair recommends that Bill 34, 2024, CD1 be reported out for passage on third reading. Any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Members, moving on to our last item on the agenda, agenda item 9, Bill 62, 2024, CD1, amending the city's fees for motor vehicle registration. This was introduced by Councilmembers Tupola and Toba. Councilmember Toba, did you want to share anything up front? Okay, thank you. With us today, we have from our Department of Customer Services, Director Kim Hashiro.
Good morning, Chair Okimoto and members. Kim Hashiro, Director for the Department of Customer Services. So at our last committee meeting, we did provide information that was requested, or since the last committee meeting, regarding volume and potential impact in lost revenues. So you have that information. Please let me know if you have any questions. Essentially, we're looking at approximately, or at maximum, $276,980 if all 13,849 veterans aged 65 and older were to receive this exemption. If council proceeds with this, this waiver of the city registration fee, what we would request is additional time to implement. We have discussed this with DIT These programming changes are on our mainframe, and as you know, when those mainframe changes occur, it's programming, testing, and more testing. We want to make sure that nothing else is negatively impacted by this change. We also have to generate a form, communicate to the public regarding this new requirement and potential waiver. So we need time for that. And so we're requesting that upon approval, we have 6 months to implement this change. We just want to do a good job to make sure that there are no issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Hashiro. Members, do we have any questions for the director? Could you repeat for me the amount again? You said 267,009.
So what we looked at was for Oahu, the total number of veterans aged 65 and older who have a Hawaii driver's license. So that number is 13,849. If you multiply that by the $20, which would be waived, the total dollar amount of potential lost revenues would be $276,980.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, seeing no questions for the director, we'll now proceed with in-person oral testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any registered in-person testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, seeing none, we'll now proceed with oral testimony, remote testimony, and I believe we have online Mr. Gregory Masaikian again.
Thank you. First of all, I think it's great to support our veterans, especially our elders, our kapuna. The only concern I have with this is, and I think it's commendable to always try to. Were you able to hear me the whole time? There was a thing that said I had to be unmuted. So
we can hear you.
Okay, yes. You could hear me, everything I said. I just noticed it as I looked up. I was looking down at a piece of paper with the note of the dollar amount. So the thing I'll comment on with concern, while it's great to always give back, we have to understand that if it's taking from a preset budget or there's programming, I heard the previous person that came up state that there needs to be things done in the background to facilitate this. Well, then there's additional costs that are incurred. So while I'm sure everybody's not going to get this, well, maybe they will, but most people might not even be aware of it. But it depends on, how you do outreach. But there's hidden costs. And I just caution, the more we do these things, and I commend that we do certain things, the more that you have potential for loss of revenue that's going to impact negatively on the wider population.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Members, do we have any questions for the testifier? Okay, seeing none. Clerks, do we have any other remote or in-person testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, seeing none. Members, we are in discussion. Councilmember Tolba.
Thank you, Chair. In support. It's just a small gesture as a way to show our gratitude to our kupuna veterans, for this sacrifice. It's a simple, meaningful way to give back to those who have given so much for the country. I just wanted to say that I'm in full support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Tolba. Any further discussion? I had a quick question just for Director Hashiro, based on some of the comments that were made. And you said that you would need additional time to implement. What timeline are we looking at?
So we're asking for 6 months.
6 months, okay.
We want adequate time to reprogram, test, and communicate.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, seeing no further discussion, the chair recommends that Bill 62-2024 CD1 be amended to a CD2 to amend Section 4 to an effective date of July 1st, 2026. Any objections or reservations? Hearing none, the bill has been amended to a CD2. The chair then recommends that Bill 26-2024 CD2 be reported out for passage on third reading. Any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Seeing no other further business, mahalo everyone for attending and participating in today's meeting. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.